So thank you so much, Josiah Helen
You're welcome.
and Tara Green.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you. The United We Stand tour, which will be returning to the stops next year, 5 stops, and adding more on next year as well. So I also wanted to introduce to our panel as well Julian Feldman. He is an enthusiast of the blockchain. As we're going to be launching the blockchain election assistant app next year, that's something he can jump in on about that development and how we're going to incorporate that into the tour, as we have quite a few developers that are in the process of building that app tied around essentially the United We Stand movement. So I wanted to start off with, a little bit of the background of free and equal elections. Whereas, as I mentioned before, we're a 501c3 nonpartisan organization that leads national, state, local, and local efforts to open the electoral process in the United States by hosting all-inclusive gubernatorial, presidential, and senatorial debates. We also organize electoral reform symposiums, producing the United We Stand tour, which is what we're highlighting this year on this panel at POLITICON, which is going to be supporting individuals running for office and creating a blockchain election assistant app to promote transparency and empower voters with information about all of their candidate voices. And so United We Stand, it is an educational festival and tour uniting the younger generation with musicians, artists, and thought leaders to promote political and cultural change. So what I wanted to do today is have, starting with Josiah Helen, have him introduce a little bit of his background in the music and these flutes here, that he's what you would call a 360 artist musician that not only performs playing the flute, knows the history of the flute, he makes his own instruments by hand that he performed here on stage today. So Josiah, please let our listeners know a little bit more about your background, and then Tara as well, and then we can go into about your experiences on the tour this entire year, because you're the two that have been on every stop. We've had a lot of other artists as well, but they've been on all 5 stops. So please.
All right, yeah, my name is Josiah Hill. I am a descendant of the Yaqui and Puripechan people, and I was a machinist for a long time for a medical company, and I did a lot of assembly work and fine detail work, making a lot of implants and stuff. And when I lost that job, I really had this desire to create still, but I wanted to create something beautiful. And so I decided to try making these flutes. And after a lot of failure, I figured it out and how to do it. And I treat them in the best way possible. I use mainly river cane when I make the flutes. I finish the wood with a combination of bear grease and beeswax, which is an old traditional way of treating wood. I don't use any heavy machinery. It's all hand tools, and I just put a lot of love into them. And it's really special to be able to bring that to the people and to play music on an instrument that you've made. Like I said before, I go out to South Dakota every year, and I spend time with Oglala out there. And a lot of these songs come from experiences I've had out there. And even I feel like the gift of being able to play these flutes like this came from that area. So I have a lot of love for the Lakota people.
Could you tell us a little bit about the prayer, the brief prayer you opened up with today?
Oh, it was, so yeah, that's basically just a thank you to the Great Spirit, to Mother Earth and to all 4 directions for bringing us all here, and for the good health of the people. So that's basically all I said. It was a thank you, and yeah, to show a gratitude so I could start in a good way.
Thank you, Josiah.
You're welcome.
For that. Again, coming from a place of prayer is really what's going to unite not only the United States of America, but the entire world, all countries. And so, Tara, please tell us about your background and what you're all about.
Thank you. Let's see, what about my background? Well, I was brought up in North Idaho. It was a very conservative Christian environment, and I left home when I was 15, and I've been on my own since. The oppression of the Southern Baptist Church was difficult for me, being regulated and told to do things that I didn't want to do. And I was on a quest for freedom, true freedom. So I've gone and found grassroots communities that are changing the world through direct action, and I find that to be really inspiring. And I encourage every single one of you to remember your personal power, because we can try to ask other people to change things for us, but ultimately we have the power with every single action that we have. We've all heard the phrase, vote with your dollar, so you can buy things that you actually support. But even so, more than that, we can vote with our every single action and think about the ripple effect and the consequences of everything that we do and how that impacts our surroundings and our world, because we really are all connected. So every choice that we make, do so consciously. What else?
Thank you so much, Tara. And I wanted to introduce Julian Feldman, who's been on the last couple stops of our tour for United We Stand. So welcome to the idea, the movement. And I'd love for you to let the audience and people know a little bit about you, Julian. It's been great having your support.
Thank you, Christina. I've been following politics pretty closely for several years. I've been interested in it.
Mic up a little higher.
A little higher? Okay. I really got into cryptocurrency and blockchain about 2 years ago because I've been very concerned about the runaway deficit spending and the printing of money and the problems of central banking and fiat currency. So when I became aware that Christina is looking to build a blockchain app that can help guarantee that elections can't be rigged, I was very excited. The last election cycle, there was a lot of talk about election interference, whether it was from Russia or the Democratic Party or whoever it is. It seems like everybody agrees the election can be rigged. So then what we should be doing is looking towards technology that is currently in development and that exists to prevent that from happening. And that is, in my opinion, blockchain technology, the underlying technology behind Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. When you say cryptocurrency or blockchain or Bitcoin, people often get hung up on it like a new money system. And it can be implemented that way, but it doesn't have to be. The technology behind this blockchain is just simply an immutable record that can't be fudged or messed with by any of the participants. So it retains its authenticity, even if people would try to manipulate it. And that has incredible potential to change the business side of the world, the financial side, the accounting side, but also just for elections. So I think that we should be looking towards alternatives to the current election methods that we have. There's ranked choice voting, there's all sorts of other things that are being discussed at POLITICON, and blockchain-based voting, I think, is one of the most important things. So being on the United We Stand tour has been really awesome. I've been on the last 2 stops. This one and the one before it was an event that my partner and I helped put on called Freedom Rising out in Oregon that we'll talk more about in the future.
And so the blockchain app, I definitely want to dive a bit deeper into. But the focus I wanted to really go into is our experience. And we haven't publicly spoken about this in this sort of great detail, but what we have experienced on the United We Stand tour, I would just love for Tara to start with what it has been like for you through the process. I met you in Fort Wayne, Indiana. One of our organizers there, Rowan Green, of it's the Heartland Communities, the Stewards of Heartland, right? So the names are sometimes catchy, but he helps to bring and grow locally, have people grow their food locally within Indiana. And so at Earth Week, that's where I met Tara, and it's kind of been an evolution since then. So if you want to fill everybody in on your experience, it'd be great to hear.
Yeah, I would like to start with Earth Week. Our first stop of the tour was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, organized by Rowan Green, who I met at Anarchapulco earlier in the year, which is the largest anarcho-capitalist libertarian conference in the world with a heavy emphasis on cryptocurrency. So Rowan organized Earth Week, and what I loved about it was that it was so inspiring and people were actually taking action, because we, the people, have the power. And so we can vote for a green deal if we want to save the earth, but what we can do now is change what we're doing. Choose consciously when we eat. Think about every time, like when we go to the bathroom, are we polluting clean drinking water when we do so? Something I'd love to applaud this particular venue for is that they're recapturing rainwater and using that instead of wasting clean drinking water. And so at Earth Week, we got involved with the Great American Cleanup Crew, and we picked up trash along the riversides. We did Food Not Bombs, where we gathered up a bunch of plant-based food, created meals, fed it to people, homeless people, anyone who was hungry, played music. And there was a lot of events that were put together. We had a free market where we could trade and barter and exchange goods. And we did a permaculture convergence. Permaculture is the combination of the words permanence and agriculture and also culture to create regenerative, sustainable agriculture rather than what we have today, where soil is one of our resources that's depleting more quickly than anything. And if we can retain our soil, it's like cultivating gold right underneath us. If we can grow nutrient-dense food, we have so much freedom and power, and less control can be done to us. So something that Rowan Green is doing there, he's created local Indiana food slips, which is eventually going to be on the blockchain. And so they're keeping all of their currency local and growing their food, exchanging it there. Then we went to our second stop of the tour in Texas. Independent Minds was the event, and it was held at a healing sanctuary for veterans with PTSD. So every single stop of the tour has been so unique. We're collaborating and connecting with people from various diverse backgrounds, which is really what we need to do. Rather than getting stuck in a two-party system where we're just around people with the same ideas all the time, or the complete opposite where we're going to fight with each other, if we can have conversations and come from a place of the heart and honesty and connect with people, we can talk about our common needs, which are far more than the things that we disagree on, and we can work together to create solutions. So at this healing sanctuary with veterans, for veterans with PTSD, we got to do a plant walk and learn about the native edibles in the area and medicinal plants. And we got to share music and great conversation with so many people there. Then we went to Colorado for the Sister Wins event, celebrating the 100th year anniversary of women's right to vote. So every single crowd has been entirely different. This was very empowering for women. There was just so many enlightening workshops and music. Paia was there, and Amber Lily, which were some other music artists on the tour this year. And then our fourth stop, Freedom Rising Convergence, was something that I organized with the help of Julian here. And we created a platform for truth, basically, and we had all kinds of speakers, and we had music as well. We had Dub Tonic Crew. They're an amazing reggae band. They sing about one of their songs that is my favorite talks about how we're the 99%. They're the 1%. We don't need them. They need us, but they can't exist without us. So now we're here for the fifth stop at POLITICON.
And that was beautiful. It's the first time I've heard you say it in that so much detail. So thank you for that. It was beautiful, Tara. I just wanted to hear your take from it, from your heart. And in a world that is seemingly so divisive, it's not. There's so much more unity throughout the United States than the latter. It's just the system of the people in office and the mainstream media and the tools that they use to. Particularly the two-party system uses to keep getting reelected over and over again, whether it's the flaws of the voting machine or gerrymandering or ballot access, having restrictive ballot access barriers where it's hard to get on the ballot to the closed commission on presidential debates. So I can tell you from going on all these tours, 5 stops, we've done actually 3 this month. we have been back to back to back. And what I have seen on the ground level, the local level, is so much goodness, so much kindness, so much love and compassion. And this is not what the mainstream media out there reflects. It feeds into this needless negativity and divisiveness, the mainstream media that is controlled by Rupert Murdoch and the powers that be, and it's all an illusion. That divisiveness is an illusion. The reality is that there is far more love throughout the United States and the world than not. I do feel that love is always and always will be greater than fear. And speaking of fear, some individuals that stood up against quite a bit of fear that was wrongfully, I feel, implemented by the system were the people of Standing Rock, the indigenous leaders. And I would love for Josiah, he actually went on the ground at a Standing Rock and has spoken in his local community on behalf of the leaders and protesters. And Josiah, I was hoping you could share a bit of that experience with everyone.
All right. Yeah, it felt very personal to me when I saw what they're doing to the Lakota people out there, to their sacred and only water source for the reservation. You know, and in the time where we should be developing solar and renewable resources, wind, and we're still building pipelines and sacred spaces without the consent from the indigenous communities. And I consider the Lakota my own family, and so it was really hard to see that. So I did everything I could in my hometown to raise awareness of the atrocities that were happening out there. And it's really tragic thing that because water is so important to everything, to all of us, and I feel like it's our duty to protect it for our future generations and our children and our grandchildren's grandchildren. They're all going to need clean water. So, yeah, so it's our responsibility and our duty to protect that resource.
Thank you for that. The United We Stand and the Tour Free and Equal Elections, we welcome, all the peaceful freedom leaders and those of Standing Rock to join our tour and to evolve and opening every stop of the United We Stand tour throughout 2020 and for many years and decades to come to present and begin our tour from a place of prayer. So thank you, Josiah. It's very important to have that today with your Lakota prayer opening up the Motaka Yuasan, our United We Stand panel today. So it's beautiful. So I wanted to, kind of shift towards the goal of what we're doing with our presidential debates in 2008, 12, and 16, and the United We Stand tour. The footage that we're going to take from POLITICON and every stop of our tour, our really rockin' videographer, photographer teams that I anticipate will be joining most of the tours. We've got Shanti up here taking photos, and Shanti Lally and Brian Hedden back there, the hearts of gold of really giving the kind of letting people to see from within what we're doing. So throughout the tour next year, we're going to be promoting what I mentioned before is called the Blockchain Assistant, Election Assistant app. And what this app is the blockchain app will assist and inform all voters of their candidate choices and valuable candidate data to help you make conscious voting decisions, not from just two parties. The power really is in our hands. It's right here. The younger generation that we're targeting, through United We Stand with the musicians, artists, and thought leaders to promote cultural change, promote political, that is, and cultural change. They are the game changers, that younger generation. Of course, we invite all ages, all races, all genders to all inclusive on our platform. But if you look at the history of the American Revolution, it took only about 3% of the population to unite around an idea to bring about real change. And a call I recently had, really with just former Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Many would recognize him as really an accountable former congressman out of Ohio on the left. And Dr. Ron Paul was also on that call as well. And he's a congressman, former out of Texas, who ran for president. And what I learned from these gentlemen, really, Dr. Ron Paul said, if we're ever going to bring about a revolutionary change, I like to drop the R and say evolutionary change. He said two things are going to need to be involved: the youth and music. And so when I heard that, I'm like, all right, United We Stand is really the direction that I see free and equal elections going, and I don't see any other organization truly uniting the left and right and recognizing that we have far more that we can agree on than not. And so also on that call, Dennis Kucinich, former congressman, stated with Ron Paul on the call that the synergy of elections and technology will create something unrecognizable. Those were his words, verbatim. So here's the creation of the blockchain election assistant app. And so that app will, list every single candidate running for office, and whether it's Democrat, Republican, the Green Party, Libertarian Party, independent candidates. We do see in the polls that congressional ratings that are all-time low, and that there are more independent voters, according to Gallup poll, than there are Democrats and Republicans. So the time is really so close for United We Stand and free and equal elections go another level. So Julian, the blockchain app, will include all of these candidates. It'll list, who's contributing to their campaigns. Eventually we'll have online debates. A platform that actually can be trusted on the blockchain ledger, because we cannot trust the people running the RNC debates, the DNC debates, and what they did to Tulsi Gabbard and her not being the third round of the DNC debates was completely unacceptable. We cannot trust the Commission on Presidential Debates because it's run by the former chairs of Democratic and Republican parties, and big money runs it, and even the League of Women Voters retracted its support in 1988, stating the CPD has perpetuated a fraud on the American voters, because it has. It's a fraudulent platform. What I see with the app incorporating these debates and really helping us to tell what's real or not, can you explain to people a little bit more what the blockchain ledger is, how that works, Julian? Thank you.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from Christina just how much these things are rigged against alternative parties, the amount of signatures that you need, and all of that. So the ledger, you can sort of imagine like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet with all these empty boxes. And with Bitcoin, for example, it tracks every single bit of Bitcoin sent from one wallet address to the other. So you can imagine my wallet address as one of these entries, and perhaps Tara's wallet address as the other. So if I'm sending it to it, there are a group of people called miners, and these are people running very expensive computers that are calculating math problems very quickly. And by proving that they've solved this math equation, what they do is they get the rights to publish the next bit of the record. All the other computers recognize that they have indeed solved this math problem, and they get to publish that. And they're incentivized to uphold and maintain and continue this infinite, basically, record of all the transactions, because they are rewarded with the creation of new Bitcoin. So that's called proof of work mining. So basically, through math, through this technology, we're able to continue and maintain a record that can't be messed with and can't be altered of every single transaction that's ever happened. So that doesn't necessarily have to be money. The miners could validate that you voted for a specific candidate, that a specific candidate got funding from a specific super PAC or whatever it is. It's more so about this is technology that validates that this happened this way at this time from this person to that person. So I completely agree. We can't trust any of these organizations. They have their own agendas. They want to maintain power. The Democrats and Republicans don't want to lose seats to independents, to libertarians, to Green Party. And of course not. They would lose their majority. They would lose the ability to promote their agenda. But this isn't about them. This is about the people having a fair shot at promoting their actual agenda. And, the great thing about technology is, or like the scientific method is, it doesn't fail. Like, people might implement it improperly, but the technology is sound. So what's super good about this technology is you either play by the rules you're not allowed to play. You can't hack it. You can't pretend that you're doing it properly, because there's all the other computers all around the world validating that it's true. So if you tried to scam it, it wouldn't work out, because every other participator would recognize that you're doing it and you'd be kicked off. So what we want to do is embrace this technology, which is the most important technology since the internet. We have smartphones, we have new devices that allow us to connect, that allow us to use the internet super easily. And now we have blockchain technology that takes the infrastructure, takes the internet, and allows us to create a record of indisputable truth that nobody can mess with, whether or not they want to. So this has huge ramifications for the political system. given that nobody trusts the people that are running it, whether or not you're on the Democratic side or the Republican side, we need to embrace this technology. On a grassroots level, the people need to call for this technology to be used, and that's why this blockchain election assistant app is so important. We're here on the ground floor. I'm not a developer. I spent a lot of time trying to learn this. I'm more of a networker, but I've met a lot of developers, and they definitely agree, and we know several of them that are definitely on board and are going to be contributing lots of time and effort in this next year to the blockchain app. So.
Wow, all right. So, and thank you for bringing in those developers through the network, and that's how we're meeting them through the United We Stand tour and the different projects we do. And it's been really cool, the stage that we have at booth 110 here for free and equal elections. We brought in our little stage there and our projector and sound, and we've had representatives from Bear Vote on the stage to U.S. term limits and so many more, and we're learning about the flaws of the electoral system on the term limit side, and the fact that we don't have alternative voting methods like ranked choice voting, which Fair Vote is spearheading, the Center for Election Science, approval voting, another type of really cool voting. Anything other than what we currently have, the singular vote, is better. So, I want to open up to audience questions in a little bit, but I wanted to also break down the details for the first time, well, really second, because I said it at Freedom Rising, the fourth stop of the tour. But the version 1.0 of the blockchain election system app will be powered by Nexus Earth. Nexus Earth is run by Colin Cantrell. He had actually an event at Aspen Institute 2 years ago where Dr. Ron Paul was, Jesse Ventura, Dennis Kucinich, Eric Voorhees, very well known in the Bitcoin arena, and so on. And so Nexus Earth, they have a blockchain component called Tritium. We're super stoked to team up with Colin Cantrell. His father, Jim Cantrell, is actually the co-founder of Elon Musk. He's with Vector Space of SpaceX, that is, and also with Vector Space now. So the blockchain app powered by Nexus Earth is designed to promote transparency in the U.S. electoral process, inspire individuals to run for office, empower voters with information about the ballot system, and educate them on all their candidate choices, not just from the two parties. The version 1.0 features the database of every single candidate running for office: Democrats, Republicans, alternative party candidates, independents. The candidate details will be on there: the bios, voting record, debate archives, campaign contributions, ballot access requirements by jurisdiction, interactive candidate support tools, asking people in your community to run for office, help get potential candidates on the ballot, or learn how to run for office yourself. I ran for statewide office in my late 20s for California Secretary of State as a Libertarian candidate. I would have ran green. I wanted to run as an independent, but it would take over 100,000 signatures to get on the ballot as an independent for Secretary of State of California, which is what I am, an independent. So I used the party line, the Libertarian line. They knew it, and 300 signatures, I was on the ballot. So if I can run for office, you can run for office, you can run for office, you can help somebody get elected that you support, you can volunteer, you can vote. Educational videos from our free and equal projects, debates, symposium, United We Stand tour will be incorporated into this app. Register to vote through groups like Headcount and Rock the Vote, and a lot of the other groups I mentioned today, like Fair Vote, Center for Election Science, and so on, U.S. term limits, will be plugged into this app as well. We will be that umbrella group to bring all these ideas together, inevitably on a decentralized platform. And a sponsor-supporter community system section, that is. Long-term vision, finally, blockchain voting will transform our voting system and bring transparency to the electoral process. Future plans include, that is, integrating app voting functionality using alternative voting methods such as instant runoff voting, also known as ranked choice voting, approval voting, and others. We aim to level the playing field by providing an informational, educational, empowering, inspiring, decentralized info hub beyond social media. We can't trust social media. We see what they're doing and censoring a lot of the independent media outlets that we work closely with here, Free and Equal Elections, from Collective Evolution to The Mind Unleashed to Ben Swan to Abby Martin to Lee Camp. The list goes on and on. And so that censorship is a very real thing. Definitely comes as no surprise, as we were definitely forewarned from individuals like Edward Snowden and many others and so on. But in any case, I do feel the blockchain app will evolutionize our voting system and bring about political transparency once and for all. So we could take some audience questions, but if not, let's do a little bit of a wrap-up of just kind of what you're looking forward to with the tour next year, why you're here, and anything you'd like to say about how we can unite and better our country and bring about peace, not only in the U.S. of A., but throughout the world. Josiah, please.
Right. Yeah, I found this tour to be really inspirational, and my hometown's Fort Wayne, Indiana, the first stop, and I've seen in my own community this movement happening and this momentum for years, just getting bigger and bigger. And with Rowan Green's help in Fort Wayne, he's done a lot. And it was just so inspiring to go to all these different places over the country and see the same momentum and see the love and the passion. And it's just so inspiring personally. And it fills my spirit up. It gives me the strength to go out and to continue to do this and to bring music. And I love bringing the music to the people, maybe a kind of music they haven't ever heard before that comes from a place of prayer, and they really appreciate that, though. So it's been so inspirational. And I just can't wait for next year to join the tour again and do it all over again. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been great having you. So, and Tara, thank you.
So something I'm looking forward to on the future of the tour, and just like my message that I want you all to just hear is that be the change you wish to see, lead by example, and remember your personal power. And I see that happening on every step of this tour. People are really stepping into their power, and if we want something, do it. Yeah, we can try to ask for it. If you don't want plastic straws, don't use them. Get rid of all the plastic in your kitchen. If you don't like pesticides, don't support them. Stop buying food that is pesticide laden. If you want local organic food to be accessible, grow your own garden. Even if you don't have a yard, get creative. Don't let any obstacle stand in your way, because you have the power to create your reality. You can do it. And I want to see every single stop of our tour incorporating that into our actions. We had our first stop being Earth Week, so it was very earth-friendly and conscious, but I want to see us put in a food forest this year or next year on the tour, so that when we have a gathering of people coming together, we have food directly from that land to support us. And I see that happening at the other venues, potentially at Parish Ranch for Sister Winds, and at Freedom Rising. Yeah, Need Peace. I want to see us really taking our personal power and like living it. Something I see here already, I mentioned, is that we're collecting rainwater here at this music center and using it in the toilets. That's a great step. So next year, I want to see compost bins next to every single trash can, so that any of our biodegradables like papers and food scraps are going into that to bring back nutrients to the soil. So yeah, I just please remember, everyone, that you have the power to create the reality you want, and you can be that change.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to spread the message of liberty and talk about electoral reform. I'm looking forward to continuing to talk about blockchain technology. Just as an example, this is a pendant that I bought for cryptocurrency. What I'd like to do is go around to different stores or different merchants and vendors and say, oh, that's nice, whatever that you have. Do you take Bitcoin, for example? Most of the time they say, no, it's too hard, but that's definitely a misconception. It's incredibly easy to get set up taking this, even if just as an individual you want to invest to protect some of your savings against the possibility of financial unrest with the debt. So just another example. This is a vendor at POLITICON that they thought it was really hard to accept cryptocurrency, and I set them up for it just now. This is the art of a famous artist named Alex Gray. I went to his artist community and convinced them to accept it there. This is obviously a Bitcoin logo, but that's drawn from some people in South America, some people call the Shipibo tribe, and it just goes to show that the entire world is really ready for this technology, so I'm ready to continue promoting it.
Thank you. It's probably going to come as no surprise that I would say at this point a majority of the United We Stand tour has been funded by the cryptocurrency community. So that's very telling for United We Stand. And I wanted to touch on a little bit, wrapping up here with a few minutes left of, the whole world is watching America right now. I recently attended a documentary called Gaza Fights for Freedom by Abby Martin and of the Empire Files, that is. And just learning about the historical references between, Israel and the Palestinians and Gaza, and seeing all of this unfortunate, needless chaos happening, not only divisiveness, but the lives that are being lost each passing day for reasons primarily of greed and those who want to maintain control, and it's just not okay. And as I, told Abby after that film, I told her that Gaza, the people of Gaza, we hear you here in America. We hear you with United We Stand. And, I put what I can in this every day. And I urge the people to recognize that this is a people's powered movement with free and equal elections. It's a people-powered movement. And the individuals that are offering their time to be here to help build this vision, ultimately I see it going on a decentralized hub and a ledger where it's not mine. I'm simply the visionary that, yes, has helped or created the vision of free and equal elections, but it is for the people for not only years, decades, centuries to come, and so on. So I do feel when we unite in the United States of America, the whole world will follow. And when we rise here in America and solutions come about, we don't have to keep going through this vicious cycle of needless negativity happening over and over again, because we have another game changer, which is called technology. We know it has been intentionally suppressed by the system finally. 5,000 patents alone since the 1900s have been squeezed or squashed by the two-party system. That does not come as a surprise. They want to maintain control of us, but it only takes about, 3% of the population coming together to bring about that real change. We did it with the American Revolution, and we will do it here through free and equal elections and really being the energy and the force that, or field that is, of energy and vibration that will attract and bring many of others like-minded to this platform. So thank you so much. I want to thank you, Josiah and Tara and Julian, for being here. And Brian, our videographer, with a stump boat as well, so the work he does there. And of course, Shayla. So thank you for being here. This is Free and Equal Elections. And thank you, POLITICON, for having our voice here.
Thank you, everybody.